CEO discovered nightly studying security guards' hidden dreams. His life-changing journey revealed. Jack had always believed in the American dream. As the ambitious CEO of a tech startup in bustling Chicago, he envisioned a life built on hard work and determination. Every day, he donned his tailored suits and strode through the glass and steel skyscraper, navigating the high-pressure world of business. But lately, a feeling of emptiness gnawed at him. Countless late nights spent chasing success had led him to question his choices, his vision overshadowed by doubt. One evening, as he wrapped up another long day, Jack wandered through the empty halls of his office. The echoes of his footsteps were interrupted by a faint sound, the scribbling of a pencil. Curious, he peered around a corner and found Frank, the humble security guard. Frank was seated in a cramped corner, sketching intricate architectural designs, lost in a world where creativity flourished. Jack was taken aback. In his faded uniform, Frank radiated passion, pouring his heart into dreams he'd been forced to shelve. Suddenly, a memory flickered in Jack's mind, his own childhood in a working-class neighborhood, filled with sacrifices his parents made for his education. As he watched Frank capture visions on paper, Jack felt a stir of nostalgia and respect for this man, who prioritized survival over ambition. But as they spoke, a weight began to settle on Jack's shoulders. His company was facing financial difficulties, and the thought of reducing staff loomed in the back of his mind. Frank's very job was at risk. Their late-night conversations turned into something special, like a breath of fresh air in an otherwise stale existence. Frank shared tales of resilience, of pursuing dreams against all odds. With every word, Jack felt his heart swell. How had he lost sight of the very essence of the American dream while climbing the corporate ladder? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue with mounting pressure from his board. Jack pondered a bold idea, one that could merge Frank's creativity with his failing business. He envisioned a campaign that would showcase Frank's art, a way to revive the soul of the company while honoring the dreams of someone who had sacrificed so much. But pitching Frank in a boardroom full of skeptics proved daunting. Many couldn't see the potential in Frank's dreams, bound up in their corporate ideologies. An unexpected crisis erupted when one of their key clients threatened to pull out. Suddenly, the stakes rose. Jack had a choice to make: succumb to the pressures of saving his company at all costs, or risk it all by embracing an unorthodox partnership with Frank. As he grappled with the decision, Jack faced a critical moment of clarity that could redefine success, not just for himself, but for Frank, who stood ready to finally grasp his opportunity. The clock was ticking. Could he convince them to embrace a fresh vision, or would he watch his dreams and Frank's vanish into thin air? Jack paced his office, the walls feeling tighter as each minute passed. Somewhere in the distance, the city pulsed with life, but within him, a storm raged. He stared out at the skyline, illuminated against the night, reflecting both hope and despair. Frank's sketches lingered in his mind, imaginary buildings that seemed to touch the stars, each line a testament to dreams left unrealized. He picked up his phone and stared at the contact list. Should he call the board? Explain his vision? Fear constricted his chest. What if they dismissed him? What if this idea, born out of an unexpected friendship, crumbled in the face of cold, hard reality? Then he heard a knock at the door, pulling him from his turbulent thoughts. It was Frank, wearing a tentative smile. Jack felt a rush of warmth at the sight. The man who had opened his eyes to what truly mattered was standing in front of him, clutching one of his sketches. "Hey, Jack," Frank said, his voice steady yet carrying a hint of nerves. "I wanted to show you this." He held up the sketch, a sprawling design that captured the essence of a community: houses, parks, and art installations all integrated, a place alive with creativity. Frank, it's incredible, Jack breathed. The design sparked something inside him, a vision for not just a campaign, but for a new direction. What if we used this? What if this was the heart of our campaign? Frank's eyebrows shot up in surprise. You really think so? You'd want to show this to your board? Absolutely, Jack affirmed. This isn't just about saving a business. It's about bringing dreams to life, yours included. Together, we can create something amazing. But the look on Frank's face shifted. Jack, what if they don't see it like we do? What if they laugh at us? The vulnerability in Frank's voice was palpable. Jack moved closer. If they laugh, we'll pick our heads up and keep going. But if we don't try, we'll never know. You have the talent, Frank. You have something real here. Frank smiled, his resolve strengthening. All right, then. Let us do it. Emboldened by Frank's determination, Jack began to put pen to paper, crafting a narrative that would resonate with both the board and the public. Each night brought with it fevered brainstorming sessions filled with laughter, vulnerability, and a shared purpose, yet, doubt still percolated. The board meeting loomed like a dark cloud, and Jack's fear of failure hung heavily. He could already picture the skeptical faces, the eye rolls, the dismissive glances. But he had to believe. Believing meant trusting in Frank, in their dreams, and in something much greater than corporate numbers. The day of the presentation arrived, and the boardroom felt colder than ever. Jack wore his best suit, but it felt constricting, stifling the excitement bubbling inside him. Frank hung back, his presence a grounding force amidst the overwhelming tension. As Jack prepared to present, he caught a glimpse of Frank's sketch tucked under his arm. Suddenly, the crux of the moment crystallized before him. This wasn't merely about selling an idea, it was about seizing a chance to redefine what success looked like. Today, I want to talk about something bigger than profits. I want to talk about dreams, about community, and about the passion that drives us. Jack's voice rang in the room, pulling everyone's attention. As he laid out the vision, he noticed Frank's heart beating in rhythm with his words. But just as Jack felt the momentum building, a board member shot up a hand and interrupted. And if it fails? What's the backup plan? Jack's pulse raced, his heart ached. He opened his mouth, searching for the right response. Could he truly convince them that dreaming was worth the risk? Before he could respond, he felt a gentle hand on his shoulder. It was Frank. Sometimes, you just have to take the leap, he whispered, courage shining in his eyes. Jack turned back to the board, feeling something shift deep within him. Would they embrace the leap, or would they let the fear of failure pull them back into the shadows? The answer hung in the air, thick with anticipation. Jack's heart hammered against his chest as he faced the board. The question hung, heavy with gravity, pulling all eyes toward him. He could feel Frank's steady presence beside him, a beacon of reassurance illuminating the storm in his own mind. Jack took a deep breath, the air sharp in his lungs, bracing himself for the truth. Failure is a possibility, he finally said, his voice firm yet vulnerable. But the bigger risk is not taking the chance to create something meaningful. Look around the city, people are hungry for connection and inspiration. This campaign isn't just about fiscal gain, it's about revitalizing a community, reflecting the hopes and dreams of its people. A couple of board members shifted in their chairs, their expressions a mix of skepticism and intrigue. Jack pressed on, fueled by conviction. I've seen what people can build when they stand together. Frank's vision is not just a design. It's a promise to ourselves and to our community. That's what we need to sell the aspiration. Frank stepped forward, his blueprints held tightly against his heart. I dreamt of turning vacant lots into vibrant spaces, of how community can be intertwined with art, nature, and life itself. We can take risks to build a place where everyone can belong. He locked eyes with Jack, who could sense a shift in the air, an energy unfurling like the dawning day breaking through the night. A board member, a staunch traditionalist named Mr. Reynolds, leaned back, arms crossed and eyes narrowed. But what about our shareholders, Jack? They expect results numbers in black ink, not dreams. Jack interjected, feeling the pulse of warmth from Frank's belief. But what if the numbers come once we create a space people truly want to be in? The impact of a thriving community will ultimately reflect positively on our growth. As Jack spoke, the walls of the room felt like they were closing in, then slowly opening wide as the weight of doubt started to lift. He could see a flicker of contemplation washing over the board members. Questions began to bloom, murmurs floated, and the silence was crackling with possibilities. What if we pilot a brainstorming session with community members? Get their feedback on Frank's designs? Something tangible before we dive into a full campaign? Suggested a younger board member, Sarah, her enthusiasm evident. Jack could see her energy igniting sparks in several others. The dynamic had shifted. Hope was permeating the atmosphere like sunlight breaking through clouds. That's the spirit, Jack exclaimed, drawing in the energy. We start this journey together, inviting their ideas, making this something they can truly own. He could see Frank relaxing, a hint of gratitude in his smile. And then a surprising thing happened. Mr. Reynolds nodded thoughtfully, an almost imperceptible shift in his expression. Jack felt the adrenaline pumping through his veins. Let us not just reach for the stars, let us become the stars. Together. An empowered silence fell over the room. Then a hand raised again, but it wasn't Mr. Reynolds. It was one of the quieter members, a woman named Melissa. I've seen how passion can turn ideas into gold. I say we back this. Cheers of agreement began to ripple through the table. Jack caught Frank's eye, and there was a glimmer of belief that they might just be onto something, but just as the tide seemed to turn, Jack's phone buzzed on the table, diverting everyone's attention. He glanced at the screen, and his heart sank. It was a message from their security guard, Greg. Something told him it was important, and it wasn't just about security protocols. The weight of a newfound revelation settled in his stomach, unsettling yet compelling. What's wrong? Frank leaned in, sensing Jack's sudden tension. I don't know. I feel like there's more at stake here than just the campaign, Jack murmured, looking at the screen as the room faded into a hum. What had Greg uncovered that could change everything? The next decision could either anchor their dreams or set them on an even riskier path. Jack, we need you focused. Here, Frank urged softly. This is our moment. But Jack felt the urge pull him in two directions. The campaign was blooming, but there were secrets unraveled outside that could shift their journey forever. Would he dare to explore this new chapter when the weight of their dreams was hanging in the balance? Jack's hands trembled slightly as he stared at the buzzing phone, the screen illuminating the concerned expression etched on Frank's face. All around them, excitement crackled as board members shared their thoughts, brainstorming behind Jack's back. Ideas blossomed, and the momentum was shifting favorably, yet Jack couldn't peel his mind away from the weight of the message. Can we take a moment? Jack asked, needing an escape from the vibrant energy that filled the room. Frank nodded, concern evident in his eyes. They stepped aside into a corner, the murmurs of the board fading behind them. Jack, you have to be present. This is our shot, Frank insisted, but Jack shook his head. I know, but Greg wouldn't text me unless it was serious. He's not one to mix work with pleasantries. His mind raced with possibilities. Something was off within the company, and he feared it might fracture all they had worked for. What does it say? Frank asked, trying to maintain their connection amidst the chaos. Jack swallowed hard as he opened the message. We need to talk. Important findings about a potential threat to the office. It's about the campaign. Oh man, Frank murmured, clasping his hands together. You think someone is trying to sabotage us? I don't know, Jack admitted, worry creeping into his voice. But what if it's more than that? What if it's connected to something deeper? Frank studied him, his expression shifting from worry to determination. We'll never know unless we look into it. But you can't lose sight of this moment. We're on the brink of something great. Jack nodded, heart pounding against his ribs. The excitement in the room beckoned him back while the darkness of potential betrayal pulled at his thoughts. Could he balance both? It's just if anything threatens this campaign, we could lose everything, he confessed. What if this is bigger than us? Then we face it together, just like everything else, Frank replied, a hint of steel in his voice. But right now, those people believe in us. They're ready to back this vision. Don't let fear steal that away. Taking a deep breath, Jack felt the moment settle within him. He turned to glancing at the table. Sarah was now animatedly discussing ideas with others. Melissa was smiling, excitement sparking in her eyes. Jack focused on that light. All right. I'll finish this, then we'll talk with Greg. He might have a lead on who's been lurking in those shadows. As they walked back towards the group, a wave of energy surged through Jack. He could feel both the burden of what lay ahead and the promise of what was blooming within the boardroom. He stood a little taller. I want us to create a space that isn't just beautiful but inspiring. I want to create a legacy with you all and the community. The warmth of shared energy wrapped around him, bolstering his spirit. You know what would make this better? Frank said with a smirk. A reveal of the campaign's official name. Jack chuckled, then jumped in. You're right. Let us announce it together. Community first, a connected future. Cheers erupted, the fear creeping away momentarily. They were united, charged with purpose. But just as a round of applause erupted, Greg appeared at the door, his face pale. Jack, can we talk? It's urgent. A chill crept through Jack. Faces turned toward him, hope mingling with concern. They believed in him, in what they could build. But a jagged edge of uncertainty now lay close at hand. Revelation was close, but would it shatter what they had begun or forge them into something stronger? He locked eyes with Frank, feeling the weight of someone who stood beside him. I'll be right back, he said, already stepping toward Greg. As he moved away, Jack felt the thrill of hope and the grip of fear. What had Greg seen that they hadn't? What dangerous secrets lurked in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered? Jack followed Greg out of the room, his heart thundering in his chest. The vibrant atmosphere faded behind him, swallowed by the weight of the unknown. Greg turned, leading him into a narrow hallway lined with motivational posters. The walls felt like they were closing in, the air heavy with unspoken tension. Jack, this is serious, Greg said, his voice low and urgent. We've uncovered something concerning about the campaign. Jack felt a knot twist in his stomach. What do you mean? There's someone within the department who hasn't been as loyal as we thought. Greg paused, scanning the hallway as if the very walls had ears. Someone's been accessing confidential files, and it's not just for curiosity. They're sharing information with an outside firm. Jack's breath hitched. Are you sure? Who is it? We don't know yet. But the signs point to a few team members who've been acting strangely. I'm getting reports of late-night logins and secretive meetings. Greg leaned closer, his brow furrowed. If this leaks, it could destroy everything we've built. Everything they fought for flashed before Jack's eyes, the late nights, the endless planning sessions, the dreams of launching something groundbreaking in the community. The thought of it being threatened by a traitor among them made his stomach churn. What do we do? Jack's voice was barely above a whisper, filled with dread. We need to get to the bottom of this quietly. Start watching who's been spending extra hours in the office. The last thing we want is for panic to spread through the team. Greg's eyes held a mixture of fear and determination. We have to handle it delicately while still pushing forward with the campaign. Jack nodded. Okay. But this can't compromise our vision. I don't want any of this to distract from what we're trying to accomplish. Exactly, Greg replied, straightening himself. Let us keep it under wraps for now. We can't afford to intimidate everyone or turn this into a witch hunt. With that agreement, they stepped back into the boardroom where the vibrant discussions picked up again. Jack felt a surge of responsibility wash over him. This might be more than he had signed up for, but he couldn't show weakness, not now. Everything all right? Frank asked, raising an eyebrow at Jack. Yeah, Jack replied, masking the whirlwind inside. We just need to stay focused. As the discussion shifted back to ideas for the campaign, Jack's mind drifted. He caught glimpses of Sarah and Melissa animatedly pitching ideas, laughter sparking amongst the group. He thought about the hope they all had placed into Community First. There was fire in their eyes, but there was also a lurking darkness that threatened to extinguish it. Jack? Frank's voice broke through his thoughts, concern lining his features. Are you with us? Yeah, just thinking. Jack forced a smile. Let us keep that momentum going. We need to rally the team's energy for the next steps. As ideas flowed and plans were crafted, Jack felt the swell of inspiration, yet every laugh and every cheer pulled him deeper into the pit of worry. Shadows surrounded him, unseen threats lurking just out of view. Amidst the collaborative spirit, a countdown had begun, a clock ticking down to the moment when the truth would be unveiled. Could they withstand the storm, or was it already too late? Jack's heartbeat quickened. He had a choice to make: remain blind to the chaos beneath their feet or confront it head-on. Jack, are you okay? Sarah's voice brought him back. Just thinking about the future. But was he ready for what that future might reveal? As the meeting wrapped up with renewed energy, Jack stole a glance at Greg. The weight of the impending confrontation loomed. Who among them could be the traitor? The answer was on the tip of his tongue, lying in the shadows, just waiting to be discovered. The vibrant discussions in the boardroom began to wind down, energy still crackling in the air, but Jack felt like he was standing on quicksand. Laughter floated around him, yet it felt distant. He forced himself to engage, nodding along as ideas were thrown around, but visions of betrayal clouded his focus. As Frank wrapped up the meeting with a few encouraging words, Jack peeked at Greg, whose jaw was set and eyes narrowed in thought. They both knew this wasn't over. The real work was just beginning. Let us meet up later, maybe around 8? Greg suggested, his voice low as the others began to pack up. Jack nodded, understanding without needing to articulate it. This was about more than just the campaign. When the clock struck 8, Jack found himself at the small table in the corner of the now quiet office. The usual hustle and bustle had turned into an eerie stillness. Papers were strewn across the table, half-empty coffee cups cluttered beside them. He drummed his fingers on the oak, restless. A few minutes later, Greg joined him, looking as tense as Jack felt. They were both on guard, glancing around as if expecting an ambush. Did you see anyone lingering around after hours? Greg asked, his eyebrows knitted together. Not really, but it's hard to tell. People come and go at all hours, Jack replied, leaning back in his chair. What's our game plan? We need to get creative with the info. I'll dig into the access logs tonight, see who's been sneaking in. Greg rubbed the back of his neck. But we need to act natural. If anyone senses we're onto them, then what? Jack interrupted, his heartbeat rising. They could cover their tracks. We could lose everything. There was a weight in Greg's gaze. There's no plan B, Jack. We need to either find out who's behind this, or we risk the entire campaign. Then let us do it, Jack declared, determination cutting through his anxiety. Together. They began poring over the files on Jack's laptop, comparing notes and discussing potential suspects. As hours went by, the office filled with the soft glow of the computer screens. Jack's apprehension morphed into a laser focus. The world outside faded, it was just the two of them and the mounting tension of discovery. Suddenly, Greg stopped typing, his eyes glued to the screen. Look at this, he said, pointing. This login history, it's unusual. Jack leaned in, squinting at the screen until Greg clicked a link. A name flashed across the monitor, Jason, a junior analyst who seemed overly eager lately. Jack felt a stab of recognition. He's been in the office way too much. He has access to a lot of our files, Greg replied, voice tight. More than he should for his role. What's his connection? Jack asked, feeling the walls constrict once more. We can't jump to conclusions, Greg warned, but the urgency in Jack's chest was undeniable. Jason had been distracted during meetings, quick to lend a helping hand, but not without a hint of ulterior motives. Maybe we should confront him? Jack suggested, the thought igniting a spark of bravery within him. Not yet. If we push too hard, we might frighten him off or push him further into the shadows, Greg cautioned. We can't compromise our position without solid proof. Frustration bubbled in Jack. They were running out of time, and his gut told him that the answer was right under their noses. So what, we just wait? How can we even trust anyone now? Exactly, Greg said thoughtfully, a plan forming in his mind. Let us keep our eyes open but move carefully. We need to see if he slips up. Jack felt the weight of those words settle like a stone in his stomach. The uncertainty lingered in the atmosphere, heavy with anticipation and fear. Would they uncover Jason's secrets before it was too late? The flickering light above them seemed to hold its breath along with Jack, piercing through the growing gloom of suspicion. As he glanced at Greg, dread settled in, the threads of their dream were already starting to fray. Would they be able to weave it back together before the final unraveling began? The office was draped in shadows, and the glow of Jack's laptop illuminated their faces, casting flickering patterns that danced like their racing thoughts. The clock ticked steadily, each second amplifying the weight on their shoulders. Jack's fingers paused over the keyboard, lost in the murmur of his thoughts. What if we plant a false lead? Jack voiced, turning to Greg, who continued to stare intently at the screen. Make it look like we suspect someone else. It might shake Jason loose. Greg shook his head slowly. That could backfire. If he catches wind of it, he might get paranoid and cover his tracks even better. We need a reason for him to slip up authentically. Jack bit his lip, the frustration boiling just below the surface. Time was no longer their ally. What if we leverage what he wants? He suggested. If he's in it for personal gain, maybe we can bait him. Show him something that'll pull him in. I don't like it, Greg said. He leaned back, his chair creaking, a flicker of anxiety crossing his features. Manipulating him can lead to disaster. What if he turns on us? We might expose ourselves more than we think. Silence wrapped around them, thick and palpable, until Jack finally broke it. But we can't just sit here waiting while he sabotages everything. We have to be proactive. Draw him out into the open, he argued, desperate and unwavering. The room was suffocating with indecision, each moment stretching painfully. They needed to unravel Jason's web, yet Jack felt a nagging doubt creeping in. Did they even know what they were truly stepping into? Let us get some air, Greg said suddenly, standing up. I need a break from staring at all these numbers. Jack nodded, following his lead as they stepped away from the dim glow of the monitors into the crisp air outside. The cool breeze calmed the frayed edges of Jack's mind, even just a little. They walked in silence, the weight of suspicion still heavy between them, until Greg halted beside a flickering streetlight. Jack, Greg said, an intensity in his voice that forced Jack to turn and focus. There's something deeper going on here. If Jason is involved, it might not just be about the campaign. What if he has allies we don't even recognize? We could be in over our heads. The thought hung between them like fog, both unsettling and enlightening. Jack found himself looking into Greg's eyes, searching for certainty. Could they really trust anyone in their tight-knit team? I know it feels like we're on a sinking ship, Jack replied. But if we tread carefully, figure out who we can actually trust, who can't we trust? Greg interrupted, his expression darkening. That's what worries me. It's easy to see shadows in this darkness. They stood there, the gravity of their trepidation weighing down the air. A distant siren wailed, slicing through the tension like lightning in the sky. Jack swallowed hard, feeling the pulse of their situation thrum louder. All right. Then we need to gather intel, slowly, Jack decided. We'll watch Jason without him knowing. Maybe he'll lead us to whoever else might be involved. We'll need to play it cool, we can't let anyone see that we're suspicious. As they turned to head back into the building, Jack felt a flicker of hope igniting within him, but it was mingled with doubt. They were walking a tightrope, and one misstep could send them crashing down. Just as they reached the door, Jack felt his phone buzz in his pocket. Pulling it out, he glanced at the screen. A message from an unknown number flashed ominously. I know what you're looking for. Meet me tomorrow, 7 p.m., the cafe across from the office. Don't be late. Jack's heart raced. Who could it be? What did they know? He shared a look with Greg, excitement and fear brewing in the depth of his belly. We have to go, he urged. Who is it? Greg asked, puzzled yet intrigued. I don't know, Jack admitted. But it might just be the break we need, or the end of everything. With the weight of uncertainty crashing down upon them once again, they stepped inside, ready to face whatever awaited them next. The next day arrived, heavy with anticipation. Jack could hardly concentrate on anything else. Every sound in the office seemed amplified, the clicking of keyboards, the hushed conversations, the persistent hum of the fluorescent lights. It was all a white noise backdrop to the storm brewing in his mind. Hey, you good? Greg asked, breaking through Jack's reverie. He leaned against the edge of Jack's desk, arms crossed, an eyebrow arched in concern. Jack forced a smile, but it felt hollow. I'm just thinking about tonight. We have to be sharp. Greg nodded, though the worry creased his forehead. Remember, if it feels off at all, we can walk away. Nothing is worth putting ourselves in danger over. Jack appreciated Greg's loyalty, but the stakes felt too high for retreat. He needed answers. I know. I have this nagging feeling that this could be our chance to turn everything around. As the day dragged on, their coworkers bustled about, unaware of the lurking dread. Jack kept glancing at the clock, counting down the hours until they could step into the cafe's muted light. He wondered if it was a trap, if the unknown messenger was playing with their lives. Each tick of the second hand felt like a countdown to something monumental. Finally, the clock struck 6:30 p.m. Jack and Greg exchanged a glance, both knowing it was time. They grabbed their jackets and headed out, stepping into the cool evening air. The cafe was just a short walk away, and Jack could feel his heart pounding with each step. As they approached the small, cozy cafe, the warm light spilling out created a contrast to the coolness outside, almost beckoning them inside. Jack took a breath, steeling himself. Inside, they scanned the crowd. The aroma of fresh coffee filled the air, but all Jack could think of was the message. Would they recognize this informant? Could they trust whoever had summoned them? They chose a table in the corner, close but not too obvious. Every minute felt like an eternity. Jack's stomach twisted with nerves as he sipped his coffee, barely tasting it. Greg kept glancing at the door, fidgeting with his napkin. Do you think they'll show? Greg asked, his voice low and tight. Maybe they got scared, Jack shrugged, trying to ignore the knot in his stomach. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. This had the feel of a moment that wouldn't pass without impact. Just then the door swung open, and a figure stepped inside. The cafe was bustling, but Jack's eyes locked onto the newcomer, a woman in a long coat, her hair pulled back and an air of confidence clinging to her. She surveyed the room, and when her gaze landed on them, she made a beeline for their table. Jack, she said, her voice calm but firm. I was hoping you'd come. Who are you? Jack shot back, his instincts on high alert. Someone who knows Jason, she replied, taking a seat without waiting for an invitation. And I think you need to hear what I have to say. Every muscle in Jack's body tensed. They were too deep in the game now. This was at the crossroads. He could feel Greg shifting uncomfortably beside him. What do you know? Jack pressed, trying to keep his voice steady and not give away the flicker of fear stirring in him. You're in over your heads, she stated flatly, her eyes locking onto Jack's like lasers. And it's about to get a whole lot messier. Jack's heart raced. The word sent a chill down his spine. The shadow of danger loomed larger than ever and he could feel the walls closing in. Messier how? Greg asked, voice quavering slightly. She took a deep breath, her expression shifting, weighing the urgency of her next words. Jason's not working alone. He's part of something much bigger than you realize. And if you think you're just dealing with a corrupt employee, you're mistaken. Jack and Greg exchanged glances filled with silent questions. They were teetering on the brink of a revelation. Here's what you need to know, she continued, pulling out a small notepad. This changes everything if you want to survive. As she leaned in closer, Jack felt the gravity of her words. Each one could undo everything they thought they knew. Would this be the revelation they needed, or would it be a descent into chaos? He could hardly breathe, and the moment felt suspended in air, ripe with both fear and possibility. What could this woman reveal that they hadn't anticipated? And could they handle the truth? Jack leaned in, heart racing, as the woman flipped open her notepad, revealing pages filled with scrawled notes. Her fingers traced a line on the page before she looked up, her expression a blend of urgency and determination. First things first, she said, her voice low. Jason is entangled with an organization that operates in the shadows, a network that manipulates information to get what they want. He's not just been embezzling, he's been feeding intel to them. Jack and Greg exchanged another look, confusion washing over them. It was worse than they had imagined. Why would he do that? Greg asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Power, money, fear, she replied, her eyes unwavering. You name it, they offer it in spades. People get in deep and they can't claw their way out. Jack felt a cold sweat on his forehead. What do we do? How do we stop this? The woman sighed, leaning back in her chair, seeming more vulnerable now. You can't take him on directly. They're always watching. You have to gather evidence, but she hesitated. You need to trust me. Why should we? Jack snapped, the weight of her words pressing hard against his chest. Because I lost someone to them, she said, her voice tightening as pain flared in her eyes. I know what it's like to slip through the cracks and not come back. I won't let that happen to you. Her intensity held them both captive, in the frozen moment. What do you stand to gain from this? Greg asked, unwilling to drop his guard. Justice, she replied bluntly. And maybe a little bit of closure for myself along the way. Jack weighed her answers, his mind racing through possibilities. He wanted to believe her, but doubt simmered beneath the surface. Their lives felt like a tightrope walk, and the ground below was filled with all kinds of dangers. What's our first step? Jack finally asked, his voice steadier now. Gather intel on Jason's dealings. Follow him. Find the connections he's made to the bigger players. They're not going to stay hidden for long, she explained, her tone sharp and focused. But be careful. They have eyes everywhere. The mention of eyes everywhere sent a ripple of anxiety through Jack. He glanced around the cafe, the warmth once inviting now feeling suddenly claustrophobic. Everyone else seemed ordinary, but paranoia whispered that one of them could be watching. Then we need to move fast, Jack said, resolve hardening his voice. Before he catches wind, we're onto him. The woman nodded, glancing toward the entrance, as if sensing their window of opportunity was closing. I'll grant you access to what I have, but you must act quickly. Jason's already alert to changes in his environment. You'll need to outsmart him. Jack's heart thudded as he contemplated how precarious this plan was. What if they stumbled into a trap? Yet the lure of answers, the chance for justice, was too strong. He couldn't back down now. Let us do this, Greg chimed in, and Jack realized they were both ready to step off the edge, no matter how uncertain it felt. Meet me tomorrow at this same time, she instructed, rising from her seat. I'll bring what I can. But remember, if you feel the tension shift, run. With that, she slipped away like smoke, disappearing into the evening crowd. Jack's mind raced as he and Greg sat in silence, the weight of their decision hanging heavy in the air. What if she's right? What if we're in over our heads? Greg finally whispered, his courage wavering. Jack stared at the half-empty cups of coffee on the table, the steam swirling above like unanswered questions. We won't know until we try, he said quietly. Could trust come to them amidst shadows so deep? And would they be able to uncover the truth before it consumed them both? Tomorrow wouldn't just bring a meeting, it would mark the beginning of a treacherous journey. And Jack felt the path ahead, twisting and dark, as they stood on the brink of fate. The sun dipped below the Chicago skyline, casting a warm glow that masked the looming challenges ahead. Jack stood outside the cafe, heart pounding, beads of sweat trickling down his back. Today would be pivotal. The stakes felt higher than ever. As they approached their usual table, Jack spotted the woman from yesterday already waiting. Her expression was serious, eyes scanning the cafe as if anticipating danger. Uncertainty prickled at the edge of Jack's mind, but he knew they had come too far to turn back now. Have you brought the information? He asked, his voice steady, masking the unease riling inside. First, we need to establish trust, she replied, her tone unwavering. What you're up against is no small fish. This isn't just Jason, it's a whole operation. They'll stop at nothing to protect themselves. Jack exchanged a glance with Greg, who was visibly tense. We can handle it, Jack said, firm in his conviction. Let us just cut to the chase. Sighing, the woman dug into her bag, retrieving a folder thick with papers. Here's what I've gathered. It's risky putting this in your hands, but these are records of transactions between Jason and the organization. It's all right here. Jack's hands shook slightly as he took the folder. The weight of the truth felt both liberating and suffocating. What do we do with it? He asked, scanning the documents quickly. They detailed suspicious financial maneuvers, and names written in code peppered the pages. You need to go public. Shine a light on them. Their fear lies in darkness, and your work on community first can be the beacon. It shows you have influence and impact. They won't expect you to fight back, she said firmly. Jack looked at Greg, who nodded, a newfound determination in his eyes. Let us do it. We can rally our community behind this. Be careful, she warned, her brow furrowing. These people are ruthless. They will respond if they feel threatened. You have to stay one step ahead. If they realize you're onto them, they'll strike. Jack's heart raced. A sense of urgency crackled in the air, the thrill of the unknown both terrifying and exhilarating. We'll do everything we can, he assured her, feeling the weight of his responsibility to the community and to Frank. As she stood to leave, the woman paused, meeting Jack's gaze. Trust your instincts. And remember, fear can either paralyze you or ignite a fire. Choose wisely. With that, she slipped into the throng of people, leaving Jack and Greg with the intense gravity of the moment. They spent the next hours meticulously crafting their strategy, absorbing the information that felt like both a revelation and a new burden. They started mapping out their approach for the campaign, integrating Frank's community vision with the evidence they had gathered. As night fell, they returned to the office, where the atmosphere was buzzing. Their colleagues were unaware of the brewing storm, laughter echoed as ideas flowed freely. Jack's heart soared as he saw Frank, his expression brightening the room, creativity bouncing off his very presence. "Hey, ready to bring this campaign to life?" Frank asked, enthusiasm brimming. Jack shared a glance with Greg. It was their moment, albeit fraught with tension. "Yes. But we have more than just a campaign to launch. We need to unify our community against something rooted deeper than surface issues," Jack said, rallying the team together. He laid out their plan, encouraging them to embrace revived energy. "We'll not only build a physical space but a united front. Together, we are stronger than this corruption threatening our dream. Our mission is bigger than ourselves," Jack emphasized, feeling the energy pulse through the room. As they mapped out their next steps, Jack handed over the paperwork revealing Jason's dealings. "We're in this together. But know this time is of the essence. We need to act fast before they can silence any of us." But in that triumphant moment, a shout rang out. A board member stormed in, eyes wide and panicked. "The police are here. They've received an anonymous tip about the campaign. They want to speak with you." The room froze, a chilling silence engulfing everyone. Jack's breath quickened. They exposed themselves. "Greg, stay close," he whispered, trying to maintain his composure. They met the officers outside the conference room, who were meticulous and serious. "We need to ask a few questions about your latest campaign and these allegations," one officer stated somberly, flipping through their notes. Swallowing hard, Jack felt his heart slam against his chest. His mind raced. Did they suspect him? Or were they simply following leads? "We're committed to transparency," Jack replied, hoping to sound more assured than he felt. "What can we assist you with?" As questions were fired back and forth, Jack felt the tension simmering, but he held firm. The information they had gathered pushed him to remain resolute, to present a united front. Weeks flew by, hush-hush meetings abounded, and fear was palpable. The campaign community first approached its launch day, but shadows grew ever darker as whispers of Jason's actions persisted. Finally, on launch day, the air was electric with expectation. Jack stood before the crowd, Frank by his side. Lights bathed them in warmth as he took a breath and plunged into the narrative. "This isn't just about architecture or design. It's about community, resilience, and facing challenges together. Today, we stand for our dreams," Jack declared, energy pulsing around him. The crowd erupted in enthusiastic applause, but Jack's mind was still entangled in worry. Just as they cheered, a figure emerged from the back. Jason, flanked by others with watchful eyes. The tension in the air turned electric. Gathering himself, Jack met Jason's gaze, unyielding. "We won't let anyone take away what we've built. Our community will hold strong." The exchange was taut, but something inside Jack clicked. Fear ignited an unwavering fire within him. Standing alongside Frank and the community, he felt empowered. They were no longer just employees or a startup, they were a movement. As the atmosphere thickened, Jack declared, "We'll expose the truth and build this legacy together." Joy surged through the crowd, and somehow, despite everything, Jack felt hope blooming amidst the uncertainty. The fight wasn't over, but now they were equipped with unity and trust, a force bigger than any organization could fathom. As the community rallied behind them, Jack realized that every moment chasing the American dream was not in vain. It was in the fight for something greater that they all transformed. Together, they would rise above, their voices echoing through the city, refusing to be silenced. Community was not just a word, it was a lifeline. Would you like to know more stories like this? You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. If you enjoyed it, leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your feedback matters. Comment below your feelings about the journey and the incredible transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Help spread the word.